Conor, of course, of the Boston Globe. Welcome in, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. Well, again, in-game look at this 5-1 rout right now of Slovakia. What were you expecting coming in, and is this about right?
Yeah, I think it's impressive to see them, coming off that tight victory against Sweden. You want to see how some of these teams responded, right? You look at how Canada also had a nail-biter against Czechia, and they had a close game as well against Finland. Was USA going to have a similar situation where, they're clearly considered one of the favorites to win the gold, but how are they going to get tested along the way? I think it's encouraging for Team USA that you survive against Sweden, and now you're kind of taking care of business against a team you should beat in Slovakia. And then again, as you guys said, sets you up for a anticipated matchup on Sunday morning against Canada, which is what everyone wants, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I've been rooting for this for the last 46 years, even though I wasn't here for about 6, 7 of those.
Jemai's 57 years old.
But Conor,
Wears it well. He looks good.
Yeah, you said it, though. This is what everybody wanted. And obviously, the U.S. got tested. They had some early tests. But Canada has also had some tests. I mean, David Pastrnak almost ended their Olympics as well. So what do the U.S. have to do you think, to capture gold for the first time since 1980?
Yeah, I think it comes down to how the USA can hold off Canada's forwards. You can look at it hasn't been the best couple of days for Canada as far as the adversity they faced. You don't know how Sidney Crosby is going to go in that game against USA. Even if he does play, you look at the way that knee bent against Czechia. I don't think he's going to be 100% or even 50% if he's even out there. So they're going to be tested. But you look at the rest of Canada's forward grouping, right, where you can roll out Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon, and Macklin Celebrini's had a breakout Olympic run for Canada as well. I think it's going to come down to how can Connor Hellebuyck, Team USA's goalie, hold off that group. They're going to get their chances. They're going to get their opportunities. If you're going to be up early watching that game on Sunday, you're going to be freaking out because Canada feels almost inevitable when they're on the power play. But if Connor Hellebuyck, who is one of the best goalies in the world, kind of the knock against him during his time with Winnipeg has been failing to deliver in clutch moments, especially in the playoffs. If he can break through and have a key game for Team USA, it puts him in a good spot to finally win gold for the first time since 1980.
Can't wait for that. Hopefully that happens. What have you thought about Jeremy Swayman's performance so far in these Olympics?
It's tough, right? Limited is the best way to put it. And it's unfortunate, right? Because I think when you look at Connor Hellebuyck, and he was the favorite to be the number one goalie going into this, but I don't think they gave him a lot of a wiggle room, right, to see if he was going to struggle, and he hasn't had the best regular season this year with Winnipeg. I wouldn't be surprised if Mike Sullivan and the Team USA coaching staff wanted to see how a guy like Jeremy Swayman would fare out there. The fact that I think he got a start during group play, I think they wanted to see if he could run with that opportunity. Unfortunately, when you give up a goal from the red line against the Danes, it's not going to help your cause all that much. And you can look at, the boards and the way the shot was placed, but you can't let up a goal like that when you're in the Olympics, right? That goal against Denmark, Team USA is good enough they can come back from that and shake it off. You give up a goal like that against Sweden or Finland or in Canada in a gold medal game, that can be a backbreaker for your team, and all of a sudden your Olympic run is over. So it's unfortunate because I think Jeremy Swayman had a great opportunity to kind of run with an Olympic run here with Team USA, but a game like that is not going to help your cause. And what do you know? He's not been playing since that game against Denmark.
Well, and it feeds into a point. A friend texted me during that Denmark game when it was still, a tight contest. I think U.S. was up 4-3 still at the time, and said, Swayman's going to cost us the gold. And my response was, Swayman's not going to play when it matters. And that's exactly what we've seen. To your point, it's been Hellebuyck, who stands on his head during the regular season as it is, and now here in this tournament as expected. So I just think if I'm Jeremy Swayman, if I'm trying to put myself, in his head coming out of this thing, honor to be on the team and to be in the environment and to be among this incredible competition, to learn from Hellebuyck at a very close distance, obviously. Hopefully you leave this thing with gold, but you're certainly leaving with a medal nonetheless. And that can propel you, it can motivate you into the second part of this Bruins season. I don't think, even though it wasn't the most stellar of outcomes for him when he was in net, that there are negative takeaways that should shatter his confidence going forward.
Yeah, and I mean, you could also be like Jake Ottinger, who is a great goalie in his own right, but he has barely even seen the net during the tournament. So I agree. Like, you don't want to give up that red line goal, but the fact that Jeremy Swayman, one, was even in that spot to get a start. And again, you look at just how he's performed this year for the Bruins. He's been the biggest reason why they're currently in a playoff spot. I think you look at the way that Jeremy Swayman performed during the World Championships last year for Team USA. The fact that he's been known as a big game goalie. I mean, he's the only reason why the Bruins beat Toronto 2 years ago in the playoffs. So I think you've seen his stock continue to soar here. And I agree. If you can end this Olympic run with a gold medal, it should give you the momentum you need going to the second half of the season, because it doesn't really let up. The Bruins are more or less sprinting to the finish line where they've got, 16 games in March. It's not going to get any easier for Jeremy Swayman or the rest of the Bruins coming out of this break.
Yeah, it's going to be fast and in a hurry for them when they come back from this Olympic break. But
by the way, 6-1 now.
Yeah, let's go.
Dominated.
Roll the flags. Team USA all the way. I will be up on Sunday morning, that is for sure. Not just for hockey, for my kids as well. Got to note that. But just Conor, as I'm looking at, the Canadians roster, before I was headed into this, when the Olympics was getting established, and I was seeing all the different international rosters and for different teams, and I'm just like, obviously these guys created the sport, so these guys are really good. But then I look at Team USA, and there's some great NHL players on that roster as well, from the forwards to the defensemen. If you could just help to give me some confidence going into the gold medal game, where does Team USA have maybe a bit of an advantage? We've been talking about Hellebuck, who's been great for Winnipeg, obviously in net, and he's been good this Olympics. But is there an area where you feel like, okay, I feel like the United States is advantageous in this position?
Yeah, I think it comes down to Team USA's defense, which I think is a lot deeper. And listen, when you got Team Canada and you look at their D-core that's led by Cale Makar, they're very, very good in their own right. But I think you look at the way that Team USA is playing and the fact that you have Charlie McAvoy, who has been kind of the physical equalizer for Team USA. He's not really been asked to be the puck carrier or the offensive threat. He's more or less just been lining guys up, shutting opposing teams down. And if you can play that role, again, easier said than done when he's most likely going to get matched up against the McDavids or the McKinnons or what have you. He's been a key player for this group. You look at Quinn Hughes, a guy who obviously was the OT hero against Sweden, but a guy that Team USA really missed last year during the Four Nations. If Cale Makar is probably the best defenseman in the world, I think Quinn Hughes is right there behind him. And then you look at some of these other guys who are more of unsung heroes. Jacob Slavin, a guy on Carolina who doesn't get a lot of publicity, is probably one of the best defensive D-men in the league. You're going to have to rely on these kind of guys, and it may not be pretty. They're not going to make the highlight reel most likely, but if they can do what they can to at least slow down the McDavids, the McKinnons, the Brad Marchands, the Celebrinis, I think that's the best way for Team USA to come away with the win. It's going to be doing what you can to at least minimize the damage against Canada's forward group.
All right, we shall see. Those guys are pretty good, I hear.
Yeah,
Team
they're
Canada.
okay, I think. Didn't they have 10 goals against someone in this tournament? Looking ahead to the gold medal game, assuming the U.S. at this point will be in it, do you have any plans for the 8 a.m. start time here, Conor? Do you have any, do you have a menu lined up for this? Do you have a party planned?
Nothing too crazy. I'll have to get my Dunkin' order to go and
There
get
you
locked
go.
in pretty early on. But otherwise, I'm going to be, I think like most people, very stressed out watching these games. If you've been a hockey fan, it's been an unbelievable run. When you look at all these overtime games during the quarterfinal round, you look at even USA-Canada women's hockey, that game was an instant classic. This is what people envisioned, right? When the NHL and these pro players are going to go back to Italy for this tournament, you've got 4 or 5 straight days of unbelievable hockey, and it should culminate in what we all hope will be an instant classic on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Well, the mindset of the Americans coming off the Four Nations, obviously, last year in beating Canada early and then losing in the gold medal game has been gold or bust. I mean, and it's been a long time since Team USA has been able to have that mentality at a Winter Olympics, obviously. We keep talking about the last time they won. It's been half a century. So granted, NHL players didn't play in all of those, but is that your expectation? Not definitively that the Americans go out and win gold, but I mean, how realistic is it as you match up, kind of do the USA-Canada tail of the tape?
Yeah, I think USA has been building towards this. This has been their best opportunity, regardless of whether they're going to have NHL players in the Olympics the last couple of years. You look at how the pipeline of American talent in hockey, starting with Jack Eichel in 2015, and then you look at the Tkachuk brothers, the Hughes brothers, Austin Matthews. Like Team USA has been building towards this for over a decade now, and this is their best opportunity to finally kind of overtake Canada on the stage like this. So you look at the stakes involved. You can look at the history of USA as a chance to win gold for the first time since the Miracle on Ice team, and then also like Canada's feeling the pressure too. You've got so many guys that have so much at stake. Like Sidney Crosby, healthy or not, this is probably his last opportunity. Brad Marchand, this is his first and probably last opportunity. And then if you're Connor McDavid or Nathan McKinnon, these guys that are the faces of hockey, do you want to be the group of a stacked Canada roster that falls to Team USA? So I think both USA and Canada is going to have a lot of pressure on their shoulders in this game, and I think it's going to come down to who's going to make the one or two more saves that's going to determine who wins gold in Italy.
Yeah, this is going to be an all-timer, I believe, and we'll see exactly how it goes. But I'm right there with you guys. It's going to be a little too stressful to start your morning out with at 8 a.m. for sure. So I'll be having to maybe taper off the caffeine because your heart's going to be pumping 1,000 miles per hour.
We're just going to pour a little something different in that coffee.
We'll see what happens between
like
intermission.
A half calf.
You may have to.
Simmer down a little bit.
But I think it's going to be
6-2 now, by the way. Collapse is coming.
Oh,
All right, let's go.
Oh, no, they're closing
I'm kidding.
the gap.
5.5 to go.
Uh-oh, don't plan that party completely yet, I guess. Maybe hold off.
No, 5.5. I think
worried.
we can punch their ticket. But when they get back from this, obviously the NHL season will resume again for the Bruins. It was a week ago yesterday, so on Thursday they got Columbus. How do you think this affects them? Because these guys have been playing some high-level hockey and not really taking a break. They'll get a few days to resume, but do you feel like the layoff will affect the guys in the Olympics more or the guys who didn't play and just came back to practice?
I almost feel like it will impact the players who've been probably on a beach the last couple of weeks more. I think you even saw like in 2019 during that playoff run where the Bruins had like over a week, 10 days off between the conference final and the Stanley Cup final, and it feels like they couldn't get their legs early on. I almost feel like it benefits you in hockey to, it's a game of momentum, right? And I think if you're able to keep on skating, you're playing hockey, you kind of can carry that moving forward. So listen, I think the team will take any rest they can get, especially when you look at how hectic the schedule has been. And you could, look at maybe younger players like Fraser Minton, who are in their first full NHL season. Yeah, he could probably use a breather. Some of these guys on the penalty kill that have been struggling could use a breather. But also, you look at the way they've been playing since the start of the new year. Is that going to maybe stunt their momentum a little bit coming off this extended break? It's going to be fascinating to see how they handle it, because also that game against Columbus on Thursday, Columbus had won 7 in a row going into the break as well. So how these kind of teams respond when you look at how close the standings are is going to hold a lot of weight over who's going to actually make it to the playoffs in a couple of months.
Even if they do get off to maybe a slower start and they shake off that rust, though, they have exceeded expectations, I feel like, throughout the first part of the season. Do you think they will continue to do that once it resumes and through the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think you look at the way they've played, and they've definitely exceeded expectations. And I think the biggest thing for why they've been able to, put themselves in a playoff position is they've got a sustainable or repeatable formula they have, right? It helps when you've got a David Pastrnak, a Charlie McAvoy, Jeremy Swayman, obviously, but you look at where their success lies. It also revolves around a power play that's been a top 5 grouping all year. You've relied on a lot of guys up and down the lineup chipping in, so it's not relying on just one player or two, or it's not like the Bruins are getting caved in on the defensive zone and it's all falling on Jeremy Swayman to bail them out. You've had multiple guys step up throughout the course of the season that's kind of carried them through. So if you look at the way that Marco Sturm wants them to play, which is physical, fast-paced, forcing turnovers, and then capitalizing on the power play, if you can keep that moving forward, they're at the very least going to be in a spot where they can keep on piling on points and at the very least put themselves in the mix for a playoff spot once you get to April.
I'm just going to take it back to what you guys were just talking about, the rest versus rest thing coming out of the break. I tend to approach some of these things from a bit of a betting happenstance. And I think back to the Four Nations last year and teams that were impacted in terms of personnel competing in that tournament versus, again, the teams that had the layoffs. And I got to tell you guys, I am going to be firmly betting against the teams that were most widely represented at the Olympics. The Panthers, the Lightning, the Avs, the Wild, the Golden Knights. Like, these are teams, for at least those first 2-3 games, I will be betting against them because I think ultimately the fatigue is going to be more impactful than the rest component on the other side, because those teams, are basically at an even level. It's, yeah, we're rested. You're rested. You were on the beach. I was on the beach. Which of the guys that have been playing fresh, that may have also gotten a little banged up, a little tweaked along the way throughout this very intense competition, who ultimately is going to be the most battered? Those are the teams that I cannot wait to invest against. That's how I'm going to be approaching this thing. But it's going to be interesting. And the Bruins, they're another one. A lot of representatives.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. I think you look at just the amount of guys they've had, and they've at least benefited where they've sent a lot of players over, but there's also been guys who haven't really been overtaxed, right? You look like Charlie McAvoy, I think, is second on the team for the USA as far as ice time, but you've got Hampus Lindholm went over, but he barely played. Elias Lindholm started off as a top 6 player, and his ice time sort of got catered back a little bit. Korpisalo didn't really play for Finland. Joki Harju, like, they really haven't had too many guys. It's not like you've got, as you said, the Panthers, right, where Matthew Tkachuk's playing a ton, or Nathan MacKinnon, who's playing 20 minutes a night, or look at, like, the worst-case scenario. The Pittsburgh Penguins have been, like the Bruins, one of the more top surprises in the NHL this year. I don't know what Sidney Crosby is going to look like the rest of the way, and that's a devastating blow for Pittsburgh. So I think Charlie McAvoy, regardless of what plays out on Sunday, he's going to have a bit of an emotional withdrawal coming off a game like that. So I think it's to be expected that a guy like him is going to need to take some time to get back on the NHL schedule. But other than that, the Bruins did send a lot of players, but they also weren't overtaxing those guys when they're over there in Italy, which is good news for the Bruins, because last thing you want is 4 or 5 key guys that are really running on fumes right as you get back to the start of the regular season.
If you ever wanted to know what a true Boston guy through and through sounds like talking Olympic hockey, there is no doubt our guy Conor Ryan of the Boston Globe and Boston.com